Are you ready? Hi everyone, welcome to Knox Podcast. This is episode 1. I cannot believe that we are recording the first episode, that this is really happening. Like, it feels surreal, it doesn't even feel real. I feel a mix of emotions. I feel excited, I feel nervous, but overall I do feel really, really grateful that you're watching and that we've gotten to this point. For this episode, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I want you to get to know me, and I want to tell you what the vision of Knox Podcast is and what our goal will be. So if you don't know already, my name is Lea Nicole Malgar. I would say my parents did a pretty good job with my name. And I say that because I don't really have a preference with what you call me. I'm okay with whatever you decide to call me, but overall, Lea is my corporate America name. So from my 9 to 5, people refer to me as Lea. But now that I'm thinking about it, at home they call me Lea or Lea when maybe they're mad at me, or like that's my cue, like, oh shoot, like what did I do? But my family, my close friends, everyone calls me Nicole or Nicky, or there's a few other nicknames that we're not gonna mention on this first episode. But I am 23 years old. I just turned 23 last month in September. I'm a September baby. Go September babies. I keep telling everyone that I don't want to celebrate any birthdays after this one, which I might take that back next year. I think what it is that I don't want to like make it known that I'm 24, because I feel like 24 sounds like, okay, it sounds like I'm getting a little bit old. And we are filming live from New York. I am a proud New Yorker, born and raised in Long Island. I'm going to expose myself just a little bit right now because I have to give them a shout out. Not like they're listening, but go Yankees, gotta represent. I was trying to keep track of the score because this is game 4 of the World Series. It's been tough for them, but we are hopeful. We are praying for these guys. It's actually funny that I mentioned that because I was texting my friends this weekend, one of the group chats, and I'm like, guys, please pray for the Yankees. And then they're laughing at me. And then I'm texting my cousin who's like literally across the country. It's LA Dodgers versus the Yankees. So she's in LA, and I'm like, dude, I'm literally praying for them in church. I'm just texting her while I'm in church. And then she's like, Jesus is going to smite you, which Jesus is listening to the prayers, and go Yankees. But to move forward from that, my parents are Salvadorian, so I am a proud Salvadorian. You'll notice that in this podcast, I really, really want to be going back and forth from Spanish because I want to be reaching everyone, and I want to be reaching, my Hispanic people. And I want everyone to, feel like they can relate to someone that not only speaks English but relate to someone who, can involve that Spanglish. So van a notar que en ese podcast yo quiero que todos se sientan bienvenidos. So voy a estar hablando en español, voy a estar hablando en inglés, y es porque quiero alcanzar a diferentes personas, como dije, no solamente a personas que hablan en inglés, pero también a mis hispanos y a mi familia y mis amigos que quizás solo hablan español o quizás también hablan inglés y español. Entonces, eso es una de las metas en este podcast. Now, for you guys to get to know me a little bit, we're going to be doing some rapid fire questions. So, first up. I'm reading his lips. What? Favorite part about living in New York? I would say the food. We have the best food here, and I really enjoy that we get to enjoy the 4 seasons and the people. Favorite album right now is Cromo by Nate Diaz and When Wind Meets Fire, Elevation Worship. Any pets? I do. I have Chloe. I love my little Chloe. She's a dog. A poodle.
Favorite food?
Oof, favorite food. That one is hard. I think it's not hard. I would say I really enjoy sushi. Everyone who knows me knows that, I would say. And also tacos. Can never go wrong with tacos. I collect stickers and shoes. I'm trying to hold back on the shoes though because not enough closet space at the moment. My most prized possession would be this ring that I bought. I think it's 2 years ago now. It's something special between me and God. So I'll probably talk about it a little bit more in one of the episodes, but that's probably one of my prized possessions. Este año que viene estoy muy emocionada de seguir este podcast y traer más invitados. Who knows me best? I wasn't planning to mention her on this first episode, but probably Diana. She's my aunt. She's like a mom. She's my best friend. Don't know where I would be without her. I love her so much. I know she's watching. So yeah, shout out Diana. I have traveled to, the first place I ever traveled to, the first time I ever got on a plane was to California. So I've traveled to California. I have family there. I've traveled to Puerto Rico with my cousins, also to DR with my cousins. And I actually have a trip coming up to Vermont, a girls' trip. So I'm excited for that. So, lo que me gustó de viajar a El Salvador por primera vez es que pude viajar con mi mejor amiga Leslie. So, eso fue muy especial, fue muy, muy divertido y agradezco mucho a su familia que me llevó como su hija adoptiva. Son bromas, pero me gustó mucho conocer El Salvador. Nunca había ido, fue mi primer viaje this past summer y me encantó mucho las pupusas. Pude visitar a mi tía y conocer a mi primita, a mis primos. Y me encantó mucho ver las personas allá y visitar lugares allá también turísticas. And yeah, me gustó mucho. A part of me that I'm working on in the moment. I'm trying to hit the gym, trying to get ready for wedding season coming up. Alright, so that's it for the rapid questions. So now I want to get into really what Knox podcast is and what the vision and the goal is, as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode. So for this, I would have to rewind 4 years. I think it's important for me to mention that by the grace of God and thank God, I was raised in a Christian household. My parents grew up Christian. My grandparents, raised them Christian. So, I was blessed to, grow up in that environment, going to church, having good influences in my life. My grandparents have been a huge influence in my life. My aunt, I don't know what I would be or where I would be without them. So I'm very, very grateful for them. So, I would go to church. I was, I'm part of the choir at my church, but it wasn't until like 4 years ago that I personally decided to have a personal, intimate relationship with God, because it's one thing to, hear about it and everything, but it's one thing to take that initiative and actually form a relationship and get to know Him for yourself. So that happened actually during a time I would say, pretty dark in my life. I was going through a pretty tough breakup. It was a lot of heartbreak. But honestly, I can say to this day that it all worked out in my good, and I'm so thankful with these past 4 years and where I am now. But Knox podcast in specific came from a heart that was just yearning to know more of Jesus. That He, swept me off my feet and He did exceedingly abundantly in my life, and he continues to doing it, and he can in your life. And that's really the message of Knox podcast. But so I remember that I was journaling one night, and because I'm a big journaler, and then I stumbled upon these verses, Matthew 7:7 and 8. I'll read it to you. It says, "Keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and everyone who knocks the door will be opened." En español dice en Mateo 7, versos 7 y 8, dice: "Pedid y os dará, buscad y hallaréis, llamad y se os abrirá. Porque todo aquel que pide recibe, y el que busca halla, y el que llama se le abrirá." So that verse is probably one of my favorite verses. So there was like a period of time where I kept on stumbling upon this verse, and it was like, it kind of caught my attention, but I think I was kind of just like brushing it off. But I remember that it was my first time I had been given the opportunity to share the word and preach. And it was actually, I can't remember if it was during COVID or not. Or all I can remember though is that it was a virtual service. So I was giving the message online. So then I remember, my family was like so proud and so emotional. It was an emotional day for me too. But I remember after the service had ended, I remember my mom was like, "Wow, like, I'm so proud of you. You did so good. God is so good. It would be crazy." Like, she's like, you should start a podcast." And then I remember when she said that, I was just like, this was like around 3-4 years ago. I think 4 years ago, yeah. I kind of was just like, no, like, I don't think that's gonna happen. And it was literally not even really like a thought that sat in my head until, the years went on. So then, like I said, in these past 4 years, I continued my relationship with God. He has revealed himself more and more to me, and that is because I knocked and I sought him out, and there is a God who answers you when you call out to him. So, that is really important for us to remember and to know. So it happened that there was a specific period in my life where I said, "You know what? I think God is calling me to do something, to get out of my comfort zone." And I kept on thinking about what my mom had mentioned about that podcast. And I remember one night I was again journaling, and again I stumbled upon these verses, and I remember that I just wrote down in my journal, I just wrote Knox podcast. And then from there on out, I was just praying about it. I don't want to sit here and say that getting to this moment was anything easy. It absolutely wasn't, because I don't think I mentioned, but I would consider myself pretty introverted. I'm very shy when you first get to know me. Like, I'm very to myself. But then, once you get to know me, it's todo terreno, como dicen. I like to think I'm a good time. But yeah, so I knew that coming into something like this was, one, going to be a commitment with the Lord. So that, that's a lot of weight, that's a lot of responsibility that I knew that I needed to have. And two, I knew that I was going to be getting out of my comfort zone. So there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of questioning myself. And even I would say that I would, being honest to God and telling him, there's a million other podcasts out here. Why is there a need for another one? But I remember as the years went by, and as time went by, I just continued to feel this strong tug. And I want to highlight probably the day that it was, I would say, the most prominent, I guess you could say, confirmation that God was like tugging at me, saying, "Girl, this is what is going to happen, and I need, like, this is a yes from me. We were invited to a youth service, and I remember in that week, actually, I was really praying about this, and I was telling God, like, I need you to just give peace in my heart, and I don't want to move if I don't know 100% that this is your dream, and this is something that you're going to walk along me with for your glory. So, we went to this youth service. It was a beautiful, beautiful service. It was a beautiful presence of God in the place. And I remember the message, the sermon was coming to an end, and it was time for ministering. So the preacher called if anybody wanted to go up, and so I remember I went up. I wasn't really like expecting much. I was just I was feeling his presence. I was feeling grateful, and mind you guys, I didn't know any of the members in that church other than like a few of the youth. So they didn't know me, I didn't know them. So I go up here, I'm crying, I'm just, opening up my heart to God. And this lady comes by, and God really used her because she spoke, and the only thing she said was, "You did not come here for a coincidence. You came here looking for a confirmation." And she literally read Matthew 7, 7 and 8. And when she said that, like word for word, exactly those verses, I was like, wow, like he did blow my mind. I fell to the ground. I was crying. I was just really, really grateful, and I felt so much peace. And I think that was one of the strongest, I guess you could say confirmations. But as I mentioned, this has been a long journey. It's been a lot of praying, a lot of preparing, but I know that sitting right here was already in God's perfect plan. And I think one of the most beautiful things to think about is that way before this was even my dream, this was God's dream. And the fact that he's even considered me to come along with one of his dreams and that it's coming to fruition is so beautiful, guys. And I really, really want to mention that if you just continue to knock and you continue to really open up your heart to the Lord and just be honest, because like I said, when I met Jesus, I was at my lowest, guys. Like I could not speak to anyone and them really understand me the way that Jesus did. I was at a point where I couldn't even sleep. There were some nights where I couldn't even sleep, and the only way I could sleep was just pouring myself out to him, crying out to him, knocking. And in these past 4 years and throughout my whole life, really, he's shown me that there is a living God and that there is someone on the other side who's going to be listening to you and who's going to be answering you. It's not always going to be maybe the answers you'll want to hear or at the time you want it to be, but one thing's for sure is that he's going to answer, and his answers and his ways are the best. And like I said, I feel absolutely grateful, and just, I don't think that there's another word right now. I feel grateful. I feel expectant with what is yet to come. But I know that as long as I continue to knock on the door, I continue to seek him, I'm going to continue to find him and continue to know him. I think one of the best things about this walk with Jesus is that I'll always know him more than I did yesterday. And he's always willing to reveal himself to us, but it's up to us if we're willing to want to get to know him more. I always say that, you cannot have a relationship with someone if you do not open up to them. You can't have a relationship with someone if you're not honest with them. You can't have a relationship with someone if you're not taking initiative. So, God is knocking at our door, which, our hearts too. But it's up to us if we're going to open that door and let him in. And when we let him in, trust me, you're not going to regret it. And it's something that you're just going to want more. You're just going to want more of him, and you're going to see how he can heal you, how he healed my heart. You're going to see how he can transform you the way he has transformed me. You're going to see how he can make things new the way he made me new. You're going to see the way that he is a way maker, because he made a way for me to even be here and sharing, how beautiful the Lord is with you. So, there is someone knocking at your heart, and there is someone that loves you, and there is someone who wants to hear from you. There is someone who wants to abide in you when you abide in him. And when you really get to know him, I'm telling you, he's going to sweep you off your feet. That is the prize, knowing him. Entonces, queremos que todos sepan que verdaderamente si tú sigues tocando y sigues llamando al Señor, que el Señor sí va a responder. Como lo hizo conmigo, Él lo puede hacer contigo. De la misma forma que Él me transformó a mí, Él te puede transformar a ti. De la misma forma que Él sanó mi corazón, Él puede sanar tu corazón. Y de la misma manera que Él hizo un camino para poder estar aquí y lograr el sueño del Señor, el Señor lo puede hacer contigo. Lo importante es abrir tu corazón cuando Él esté tocando a tu corazón y ser honesto con Él y confiar en Él. So, I really pray that this podcast can do exactly that. We want to share testimonies. We want to share the resurrection power of God, what he can do in your life, what he did with others and their testimonies, and we want to hear from you too. So one of the aspects that we want to include in this podcast is we're going to be sharing the socials, but we're going to be implementing in Instagram stories. There's like a cool feature where you can like add questions or add like a question sticker. So we're pretty much going to be saying, send us your knocks. So like I said, we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear if there's topics you want to talk about. We want to hear if maybe you need a prayer. You could send that over. We do want to be implementing, prayer nights, maybe even worship nights. So, there's a lot to look forward to. Muchísimas gracias de llegar al final del primer episodio de Nox Podcast. Como dije, estoy muy agradecida de que pudiste ver este primer episodio, que tuvimos la oportunidad de llegar a este momento. Estoy muy emocionada de lo que el Señor tiene para ti y para mí. Y para recordarte, te quiero recordar que te suscribas al canal de Nox. También vamos a tener nuestros redes sociales abajo donde ustedes también pueden seguirnos, y nos vemos en la próxima episodio donde sí vamos a tener nuestra primera invitada. As I said, I am extremely grateful that we got to to the end of this first episode. On our next episode, we're going to have our first guest, which I am very excited about. So I just want to ask you guys and remind you guys to subscribe to the channel. And we're also going to have our social media linked down below, where you guys can follow my personal page, or you can follow the Nox's Instagram page, Nox's TikTok, so you guys are able to follow along with what we have. So I am so excited, and I am so just joyful, and I can't wait to be back here with my guest. And I want you guys to remember to continue to knock on that door. The Lord is there, and yeah, the best is yet to come. Thank you guys. Bye.
Okay, that's a cut. That's a wrap. We finished.
Subscribe.